reach a point sometimes that you feel frustrated, you have some anger and some resentment.
And I was not patient with him, regretfully. You know, it was not a good moment.
You realize that your whole life is consumed with caring for another individual, but that's what you do for your loved one. You care for them.
It's such like a sweet phrase to be a caregiver, but it's exhausting, it's frustrating, but you know, it's rewarding too.
Frustration, exhaustion, resentment, and love. These are all very real feelings for people who watch over their loved ones who are living with Parkinson's disease. Hello everyone, I'm Ted Scouten. I'm here at Baptist Hospital, home of the Miami Neuroscience Institute. You know, I'm one of about 1 million people in the U.S. who's living with Parkinson's disease, and one day the overwhelming majority of us will need a caregiver. A study finds that 88% of men with Parkinson's disease and 79% of women have a caregiver. The study also finds they have a higher quality of life than those without help. But as we find out, the life of a caregiver can be very demanding and difficult.
We met 34 years ago, February.
When I walked home from that first meeting, I said, "Dear God, I want to know that man."
Jeff and Roger's story began in Miami when they met through church while working at neighboring hospitals. Jeff a nurse at the VA, Roger a chaplain next door at Jackson Memorial.
We agreed to meet and went to lunch at Hardee's in downtown Miami, so we had our first meeting at Hardee's.
Since then, they've traveled the world together. They've loved, laughed, and faced challenges side by side for decades. Then in 2015, perhaps their biggest challenge.
We just did.
Roger was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
I was noticing changes in behavior, changes in being able to hold things tightly or drop things, changes in my voice.
Carbidopa, levodopa.
Both of their lives changed dramatically in just a few years.
This one he gets a half of, have to break it.
Now Jeff's day, every day and night, is consumed with taking care of Roger. That means 4 times a day.
Open mouth wide. Ready? All right, swallow, swallow.
Giving him his Parkinson's meds on time, on a strict schedule.
If he gets too far off that schedule, his symptoms, tremor, drooling, those symptoms get significantly worse.
And at times there's more.
He has a lot of drooling, and you have claws, and at night he has an overactive bladder, so you're up off and on all night.
And one of the biggest worries, Roger falls, breaking his hip for the first time in October.
You're totally constrained with everything you do because you really have to be responsive to the needs of the individual, and you have to put your needs second.
It's a 24/7 job.
There's no sleeping late. You get up because you got to have food ready for him to eat in order to take his medicines at 8 o'clock, and you have to do blood pressure checks.
Jeff is by no stretch complaining. He's describing life as a caregiver, and it's not always easy.
I've always been a self-care person, exercising. I used to go to the gym. Can't do that anymore.
Ooh, we're gonna get wet.
Walking the dog for 15 minutes is a chance for Jeff to carve out some time for himself. Self-care is very limited.
Once I get him in bed at night, my relaxation time is just lying down in bed and using my iPad. That's about it.
So why do it?
It's a struggle. But you understand that that's part of living, that's part of loving, that's part of caring, that's part of giving.
I'm my brother's keeper.
This is Susan Stalker and Robert Gardner, brother and sister. Robert lives with Parkinson's disease. Until last October, he was on his own in Asheville, North Carolina for the last 30 years. Then came Hurricane Helene.
And my husband Mike and I decided, let's go. We dropped everything. We loaded up the car with hundreds of dollars of supplies and food, and we drove 12 straight hours to Asheville.
After one night, Susan and her husband Mike realized that Robert could not live alone. He was falling, making life dangerous, and he was off schedule with his meds.
Physically, it was getting more and more difficult to be living alone. And, friends are friends, and you can only ask them to pick you up off the floor so many times. And so there was those inclinations to get closer to family.
They packed him up and moved him to Hollywood.
When she said, "Get in the car," and I said yes, I didn't comprehend how immense that would be.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
Susan and her husband have been documenting his journey in sometimes heart-wrenching photos.
The first few times picking you up off the floor, not very gracefully, you just think to yourself, I don't want to do this. Why do I have to do this?
Susan's life radically changed.
It's such like a sweet phrase to be a caregiver, but it's exhausting, it's frustrating.
One night stands out for Susan. She wished she could have a do-over.
I heard Robert calling out for help, and I walked into Robert's room, and he was on the floor.
She tried getting him up on her own.
And I was not patient with him, regretfully. It was not a good moment. I was losing it. And usually I'm very gentle picking him up. I was not gentle that night. And I was furious with myself. I had to stop. I had to go into another room, and I had to calm down. I had to calm myself down.
One way Susan stays calm, she carves out a little time every day to give herself a break.
I make a point to get out of the house every day, even if it's just for 20 minutes, to clear my head. I either walk the dog a couple times, or sometimes I will just get in the car, even if I don't have an errand.
So why do all this?
It's definitely about love. And it's about letting go of your ego. And, they say that the word, in the word family, you have to remove the letter I and think of others and not yourself.